Steve Jobs. Any of you ever met him?
Did you?
Yeah. Did you meet anybody in your miserable little fucking lives? Your know-nothing lives? Who'd you meet?
Harry Belafonte.
So did I. In your miserable life?
Sydney Poitier.
Sydney. In 1977, I'm at the Beverly Hills Hotel, the Big Pink Hotel, and they had just come out with deals that you wear where they buzz you and, you know, you call your answering service to get a phone call, except this had a voice on it. And I'm sitting there, and Sidney Poitier is sitting at the table behind me in a white linen suit looking like fucking God. And the thing goes off, and it scares me. And I jump back, and there's a waiter behind me. I knock the waiter, who's got red wine, onto his suit, linen suit. And everybody's running around with water and rags and trying to clean him up. And he stands up and he says, "It's all right, young man, it's all right. Don't worry about it." The maitre d', everybody's having a shit fit. And well, I didn't want to meet you this way, but thank you very much. But I met him that way. And I met Belafonte, some other, I forget now. Anybody else meet anybody? Okay.
Queen Latifah.
Latifah. Okay. I mean, did you meet anybody important? I mean, Jesus Christ. The answer is no. Have you met any presidents? Any prime ministers?
President of Central African Republic.
You mean a crook?
No.
He's not a crook? Yes. Oh, what are you smoking, Doc? Come on. Jesus, you've been in the scientist too long. Now, that's not a measure of anything just because you met any of these people. It isn't. It isn't. But a lot of people think it is. The fact that I've met 5 presidents, I mean, Charles de Gaulle patted me on the head when I was a little kid. And to the French, that means something. It doesn't mean dick to me. I don't even remember it happening. I was in France in 1952-3. Charles de Gaulle patted me on the head. But remember, our framework, wealth, risk, reward, not. Our framework for not just risk, reward is fucked up. Our framework from life is fucked up. Because a lot of things that our families hold in high esteem don't mean shit. I.e., you going to a good school, as opposed to going to no school. Now, I consider Bill and Gates and Zuckerberg, they didn't graduate from Harvard, but they went to Harvard as far as I'm concerned. They didn't graduate, but they went there. But Steve Jobs went to school 2-3 weeks, as legend. Some people say 3 days, some people say 3 hours, some people say 3 weeks. And he dropped out. So what's the takeaway on the Steve Jobs movie? Yes, sir.
You're going to sacrifice, in his case, personal relationships in order to get to super success. Unfortunately, it was his family, his daughter, more specifically.
I think a great line when the mother of his daughter says, "You're saying 99.9% of the people could have fucked me." I forget whatever she said. But he was a tough bastard. He was. And when they're going public and they're spreading out the shares of the 8 or 10 or 12 people that help them get there, well, they're not getting shares. Why are they here? He changed his mind. That's reality. Just like the handshake from the founder, that's reality. That's the real fucking world. And you were saying a handshake deal, it isn't worth fucking dick. It is to some people. To me, it means something. But my generation is deed, as they say in Scotland, or almost deed. We're fading away. What else about Steve Jobs? Yes, sir.
We're going to get the best musicians, and we play the whole orchestra.
Okay. And he never allowed the facts to get in the way of what he wanted to do. When the thing wouldn't work, when they were having the opening, and it worked an hour before and it didn't work now, he says, I don't give a shit, make it work now. Now you would have said, oh, I understand, it doesn't, well, it's all right. That's what you would have done. Every swinging dick in this room. And all the swinging dicks on YouTube. Because at the end of the day, even though, doesn't matter, at the end of the day, you want that guy to like you. We're going to have some, after lunch today, we're going to have some correspondence from Wozniak, one of my Hall of Famers, who's close to, some personal observations about Mr. Jobs from the Woz. He wanted people to like him, as opposed to Mr. Jobs. He didn't give a shit. What else about Steve?
I don't think it was necessary.
What?
I don't think this character was necessary. I think just like if you gave me the option to pick between Steve Jobs and Woz, I would absolutely go with Woz's character. I just felt like Steve Jobs was just extra. He didn't have to be such a dick, but he chose to be a dick.
Well, then why do all these guys choose to be dicks? You tell me.
That's just because they're dicks.
Yeah, but do you think it's a coincidence? We're going to talk about 15 people in this seminar, and 14 of them are classic assholes. One's not. Okay? And you don't even know who that one is. Yes, sir.
He had leadership skills and he understood people, like the masses. He knew what people really wanted. The engineers complicated things a lot.
Well, engineers always. If it was up to engineers, a car would never get off the assembly line. If it was up to engineers, it'd never get off the assembly line. Okay, continue.
He actually simplified the things and he went to the essence. Like, no, this is what people really want. Not a simple thing, not what you guys think, like the engineers.
No, the average person on the street is not got a 4 or 5 year engineering degree. Just a moment. The average person on the street is, 90, 100, 110 IQ. And arguably, engineers have higher IQ. Arguably, that's not always the case, but arguably. And he understood the essence of the person, of the human being. And he also realized that sometimes the human being, the regular person, doesn't know what he really wants. Correct, most of the time. And if you give them a product and you explain it to them in a way that they understand and it can resonate with them, then all of a sudden, that's what they want. And that's what marketing, a lot of it marketing. Now, why do new cars come out every year? New automobiles. It's because the old ones wore out? The one year before? No. Right? Especially now the cars last for a long, long time. They have 100,000-mile guarantees. They have this, that, and the other thing, right? Because what would the big automotive companies do if they weren't producing cars every year?
That wouldn't sell?
That's exactly right. And so we have been taught, our default is, if you don't buy a car for 2 or 3 years, you're a shitbag. I mean, your neighbors bought a car, your wife says, how come we can't get a new car? Your kids say, why do we have to go to school in this piece of shit, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas my kids growing up, just a moment, they wanted my driver or our driver to park a few blocks away from school to drop them off. Because they didn't want to be seen coming to school in a big, we had the longest limo in Texas. And that's saying something. We had 3 electronic bars, so you didn't have to stretch too far to get a drink. Yes, sir.
Do you think that's a manifestation, again, of wanting to be liked?
Yeah, well, he didn't want to be liked.
No, I mean with regards to the car, the car example you were referring to.
Yeah. You want to be, if not liked, you want to be thought of well by others. You want to be thought of well, which is still, you want to be liked. if you have your druthers, if you have your choice, you would rather somebody think well of you. Now, if too many people think well of me, I'm not doing my job. You had a question?
I wanted to comment on.
Oh, you did? Well.
Yeah. So he didn't want to acknowledge the B players. He said it would discourage the A players from.
Now, I tend to agree with that. But all your players aren't going to be A players. And Jack Welch, again, who I've said is arguably, in my judgment, the greatest CEO that we've had in the last 50, 70, 80 years. And he had the rank and yank. He developed, he didn't invent it. He developed the rank and yank. We rank you all, and then we yank the bottom 20% and fire them every 2 or 3 years. In truth, rumor has it, legend has it, it wasn't the bottom 20%, it was the bottom 40%. They called him Neutron Jack, because when he took over businesses, he killed all the people, metaphorically speaking, and he left the building. The neutron bomb kills all the people but doesn't destroy the buildings. So they call him Neutron Jack. And he took GE, when he took over as CEO, from a company that had, I think, 350,000 employees. It was a small company down to 140 or 50,000 employees, and he grew the market capitalization by 10 or 15 times with a lot less people. And so he just kept the better people. But you can't just have A players. It would be great if you could just have A players, but that's not the case because everybody's not an A player. But you don't have to be an A player when you come here. At the end of a year, you are an A player or you have not succeeded. I'm going to say that again real slow for the melon heads. You don't have to be an A player, just like you don't have to be an alpha male. But at the end of the year, if you're not an A player, you will have failed. So you've got a year to develop your skill sets. Some of you have, not some of you, all of you have some skill sets of an A player. Nobody in this room, and few that are watching on YouTube, have all the skill sets to be an A player. Not alpha male, A player. 98% of all the leaders, the super successful leaders in the world, are not alpha males. They're, more or less regular personalities. They're not all Don Trumps and General Pattons or Dan Peñas. And I believe, after 24 years of doing this and after almost 50 years of being out there in the trenches, what keeps more people from trying to succeed. Remember I said you will never achieve anything other than your highest expectation. And the reason why you have such low expectations, and your parents had low expectations, etc., is because they thought that, you had to have alpha male characteristics, because those are the ones you read about most of the time. You don't read about the quiet ones. But most of the Fortune 500 CEOs are not alpha males. Maybe there's 10 or 20 out of 500. They're all A players. But you probably haven't had any A players that have achieved super success. And of course, then you got to define super success and go through all that crap. But in your families, the most readily acceptable A player qualifications are athletes. We got a couple people in here that used to be athletes, real good athletes. Yes, sir.
What are the different manifestations of being an A player compared to an A player plus alpha male?
Okay. Just to make sure I understand, Doc, you want to know an A player that is an alpha male, what are the characteristics? Okay.
In business.
Okay, I'm going to tell you in business, okay? There's a long list, but I'm going to give you the salient points, the most important, okay? He does, well, first of all, like I say, I may be wrong, but I'm never in doubt. They never show doubt. They never show fear. They just don't. Even for example, when the invasion of China by MacArthur, he had already written a little speech because the chances of the Inchon invasion being successful was only 20%. And so he already wrote a little speech that if it had failed, okay, and he was an alpha male and an A player. Eisenhower did the same thing on the invasion of Normandy. He already had a little speech made up that if they got killed by the Germans, and thankfully, nobody would wake up Hitler. So he didn't bring the 30 fucking Panzer divisions forward. Otherwise, they would have been able to stop. Okay, so they're never in doubt. They show no fear. Okay, that's a really important characteristic, and virtually all of them have it. Another manifestation of an A player that's an alpha male is that they are normally loud. They are normally boisterous. They normally talk out their ass. Like when I got the big award of being the big alumni at the school that I got explained about, Danny hasn't really changed other than his accomplishments caught up with his big fucking mouth, as Dr. Teeter said. And I was always talking shit. And until I did it, it was shit. You know people that talk shit, right? Ah, fuck him, fuck her, you know. But then, Steve Jobs was always talking shit. Mr. Gates, Mr. Zuckerberg. Mr. Zuckerberg is an A player, but he's not an alpha male. Okay? That's probably the best comparison I can give you for today, executives that you know. And the kids resonate with Mr. Zuckerberg. Why did the kids today, not all, but most of the kids, especially the millennials, resonate so much with Mr. Zuckerberg? Pardon? Yeah, he doesn't wear a suit. Passive. Yeah, but he's nothing wimpy about him. He's a stone cold killer, metaphorically speaking. He's laid back. They used to call it laid back. I don't know if they still call it that. He's laid back, and that's your little weenie personalities. But how many fucking Zuckerbergs are there on the planet? One. Are you going to be number two? So I'm giving you a formula where the odds are in your favor, assholes. There's none of these pricks on fucking YouTube. You're not going to be number two. I'm giving you a formula that works for mealy-mouthed cunts and alpha males. The Zuckerberg model, if love got the job done, the Zuckerberg model's it. But love just don't get the motherfucker done. Otherwise, you sorry assholes wouldn't be here. Because arguably, even the most miserable piece of shit in this room, moms mostly loved you. Once in a while, we get a kid that, when we're off camera, I'll give you a couple examples, because they're still alive. Once in a while, we get somebody in here that the mother went out of their way to show that she didn't love them. But for the most part, moms love you, worthless pieces of dung. You know, they came out of their body and all this stuff. So moms, but love doesn't, we can't speak for your fathers that love you necessarily. Like I told you, some of the regrets that you've listed yourself, that your mother, the biggest regret my mom has, marrying my dad, which I think is fucking precious. Thanks, YouTube.